Hello, my name's Julian Tait, and I'm really pleased to be here so that I can talk to you a little bit about the declaration that we've been developing over the last 2 years. So most of you will already know who Open Data Manchester is. We were formed in 2010 from a disparate group of people working in the public, private, civil society and academic sectors, journalists, artists and activists. Basically, anybody who wanted to see data used more responsibly and intelligently, often but not always focusing on open data. We also tend to co-opt Manchester iconography, and if this event was a live event, we will be probably handing out stickers as we speak. So we all know that data can help us understand and tackle some of the biggest challenges that we are facing in society today. We only have to see how sharing data openly has helped in this country's COVID response, not only as open data, but as data shared between different organisations in a way that would normally take months of data sharing agreements to be negotiated. Sharing of the genomic sequencing data from the SARS-CoV-2 virus has enabled the development of vaccines and the tracking of mutations of concern, both here and globally. Data also enables us to manage our day-to-day, whether it be service delivery or getting on a train. But there is an increasing distrust in data processes and the decisions that are being made from them. After the A-level and GCSE assessment fiasco last year, students protested on the streets and the press and politicians laid into the creators of the Frankenstein assessment process. The mutant algorithm was cast asunder to never rear its ugly face again, even though it could be argued that the algorithm was fairer than the grade inflation that took place after the algorithm was discarded. But aside from this, we see regular reports of the unfair and errant uses of data and the processes built upon them. And all this goes to erode trust. It is into this environment the declaration was born. From many of the conversations we've had during Open Data Manchester's work and the conversations with our community, it was felt that trust had to be regained. And the way that data processes were designed, especially when they impacted on people, had to be more transparent and legible, designed with but not to, with potential harms identified and minimized. A line needed to be drawn in the sand by those who wanted to do good by data versus those who sought to exploit without regard for the negative impacts brought about through irresponsible data practice. It was also decided that the declaration had to be based on place, even though its principles are universal. Developed over 2 years through interviews and workshops across public, private, academic and voluntary and civil society sectors, the declaration's statement of intent was forged to create a shared vision of what this best practice should look like. Through this process, its attributes, opportunities and concerns were mapped. Issues were identified, such as the pressure to transform and innovate at pace in a time of fiscal stress, where services had to be maintained and decisions were being made without any wider ethical consideration, and the growing sense that citizens felt they were losing control in the face of technology's inevitable progression. Drafts were written and rewritten. And the result is a co-designed vision of what best practice in Greater Manchester should look like. The statement of intent contains 23 principles across 9 themes, including the collection and use of data, governance, respect for all, system design, procurement, a powerful tool to affect change, knowledge sharing, and open data. Well, we had to get that in there somehow. And environmental impact, an issue that in a time of climate emergency is woefully neglected regarding data practice, and our need to consider resource issues and circularity within our economy. It was designed to be practical and pragmatic. We all know where we want to be, but some of us have further to travel. Practice and knowledge around responsible and intelligent data use exists in all sectors, but these strengths often exist in silos. Part of the declaration is about how we share these skills, so that a small startup developing the next big thing has access to good information governance practice, and a public sector organisation is able to access knowledge about the latest developments in automated decision making. The stage we are at now is the creation of the implementation and support framework, so that people and organisations can align their processes to the declaration, and the governance system, so that relevance is maintained as society, technology and work practices change. And it is this that we are developing this year. Underpinning the declaration are 4 common principles. The first one being that we understand why we are collecting data and designing systems. Blue sky thinking is essential for us to imagine a better future, but technology and data are tools to use to get us there, and not an end in themselves. The declaration is deferential to the Human Rights Act, especially Clause 8, which also underpins many of the privacy protecting regulations that we see today, such as GDPR or the CCTV Camera Act. We have to win back trust, and to do this, we have to be deserving of it through meaningful engagement in the ways that we design and govern systems. And that we embrace the opportunities, but we are also aware of the actions that may create harm. And this we need to actively try and prevent. Locality is the glue that holds the declaration together, as it's about building on the strengths and connections that we have with place, our networks, the places where we work, rest and play, where our kids go to school, the services we access. So we're at the start of this journey, and already we've garnered support both from within GM and outside. We are really pleased that ODI leads are supporting this initiative, and we encourage people to join us. Cheekily, I just want to plug a few things that are coming up related to the declaration at Open Data Manchester. We have the last event in our Policy, Politics and the Algorithm series, looking at how we can scrutinise and make AI, automatic decision-making, machine learning more accountable. And to do this, we have Professor Jeanette Hoffman from the Berlin Social Science Centre, who's recently written about platform observability, Nicholas Kaiser-Brill from Algorithm Watch, based in Brussels, and Professor Keely Crockett from MMU, who talks about the interface between the human and AI and the liability that exists therein. And this is chaired by Peter Wells. After that, we've got How to Build a Data Cooperative with Asta Kapoor from the Apti Institute in Bangalore, Hayeswit from Driver Seat Co-op in Milwaukee, US, a cooperative that is enabling Uber and Lyft drivers to collect their data, and so they can maximize their own revenue. And myself, we've been undertaking a data cooperative project recently, and that is chaired by Anouk Ruhak. So thank you very much, and please do get in touch if you want to hear more about the declaration.
Thanks, Julian. That was amazing, and it seems so appropriate for the declaration to have been born in Manchester. It is really a Tides of History piece there. So I've got just a couple of questions, and then we've got some in the chat as well. So why did you make it, and why do you think it's needed?
The reason why it came about is we've done some work previously around about 2016, 2017, looking at Internet of Things and the implementation of what seemed to be kind of random IoT systems within the city of Manchester. So you find that there's a kind of almost like the Wild West, so things on lampposts and everything. And we looking into them and trying to work out who was putting these things up. There was no kind of overarching kind of control over these systems, and we were speaking to the local city council, and they were aware that these things were being put in, but they had no kind of broader view of the impact and implications of these things. So you get kind of information boards that may be outside health clinics, and which may be recording location data, and it was kind of all these kind of various issues that were starting to appear. And also from the community, there was a growing discussions around this kind of the need to try and make a stand about what good with data looks like. And I think it's from those conversations and conversations with other people, because we're kind of connected with yourselves, the ODI in London. I mean, the open community is so vast and broad and global that we thought, well, perhaps in Manchester, perhaps we can actually start to co-create something with the people who are impacted by and use these technologies.
Fantastic, and we're obviously a signatory to the declaration. How do people get involved if they want to, and how would they use the declaration in real life?
Well, at the moment, we're asking people to basically support what we're doing, and this is kind of a growing community of people. So people can become a supporter, and during 2021 we're developing the implementation framework. So we kind of not only are we trying to find these resources because there's this huge complex variety of resources that are available. There's I think the last count was 53 different ethics frameworks that exist within Europe, and you have to navigate through these things, and especially when speaking to SMEs and small businesses or just people who are just starting out on the journey, and you kind of say, well, what do we do? Where do we look? Where is the advice? And so we're trying to curate. We're not trying to create another ethics framework. We're just trying to steer people in the right direction. And so the next year, that's what we're developing. That's the journey we're going on, and we'll be doing an open call to trying to collect those resources. But initially, we want people to kind of contact us, say they would like to support it, and then after we've gone through the implementation framework process, then they can then become signatories and then commit to implementation.
Fantastic. And in terms of Open Data Manchester, let us know. You've mentioned some of your events there. What else is happening for you over the Pennines?
Well, we're doing quite a lot of stuff with. We're working in communities in South Manchester, where we're kind of implementing air quality sensors, tapping into road traffic systems to try and understand the causal relationship between motorised traffic and air quality. And what essentially within that project also, we're training cohorts of community data gatherers. So we're trying to help people take more to actually take possession of the data that's about them and their communities, so they can actually. So it's kind of a performative kind of thing. So they feel more empowered with the data that they create, so they can actually see how that relates to other things that perhaps are collected officially, etc. So we're doing a lot of work around that.
Amazing. I'm really looking forward to hearing about that.